The fall season has come and gone, and so do the changes that come with it. Whether that's to the leaves, the weather, to school, to careers, or life in general. That can all be pretty daunting, so let's take a moment to appreciate the little things. The creators of Amazon Prime's The Boys certainly aren't the first to wonder, hey, what would happen if Superman and the Justice League were evil? But they certainly answer that question in a manner I found super engaging, which I hope will be remembered among Watchmen and Brat Pack as a memorable subversion of superheroes. The show is dark and twisted, but applies a really morbid sense of humor for the disasters these irresponsible so-called superheroes cause, that range from uncomfortably laughable to downright terrifying. The writing and shooting are the kind to make you think something truly incredible is about to happen in every scene, and I can't think of a show that's kept me on the edge of my seat like this one has in ages. The somewhat infamous airplane scene being my favorite sequence in a show I've seen in a hot second. If you know, you know, and it's made the terrifying Homelander one of my favorite villains this year. And yet optimistic superheroes like Starlight are still super admirable and cut through the cynicism with their point of view, so you get a bit of both sides, it's not purely dismal and drab. Just as my utter fatigue with superhero media was about to hit its peak, this was exactly what I needed. The recent trend of PlayStation remakes breathing new life into the likes of Crash and Spyro has had me feeling on top of the world, and as if done by reading my mind, next on the list was Medieval. Sir Daniel Fortescue has always been one of my favorite PlayStation icons for his underdog nature and myriad of weapons, and seeing him and his macabre cast in glorious HD is a bone-chilling delight. The visuals are jaw-dropping. The animation and art has this new bounce and color I really adore, and from seeking counsel from the spirits within the Hall of Heroes, to using the Chalice of Souls to fuel your fallen brethren, using swords, axes, crossbows, chicken drumsticks, and more, you have no shortage of tools with which Sir Dan can show the world that you can't keep a dead franchise down. I have a big old soft spot for 80s cartoon characters that arguably made better toys than they did characters, and the new takes on those characters that give them a new coat of paint and layers, and no exception was Shira and the Princesses of Powers. The show has two opposing factions and doesn't make any of it a real shade of gray, but both sides' characters are pretty likable. Not every bad guy is a cackling maniac, and you really feel for the relationships some of them build, all on incredibly memorable settings like Crimson Waste and Bright Moon. The character designs are totally aces and befittingly bursting at the seams with personality. I love the Big Thing Small Package Frosta, Flower Power Perfuma, Odd Couple Mermista and Seahawk, and that's hardly the tip of the iceberg. Adora, Glimmer, and Bo being the best friend trio on TV right now. In a day and age where discourse and complicated war and conspiracy plots are abound in cartoons, I appreciate a show like Shira that bides its time collecting princesses to fight the good fight and letting their infectious personalities bring color every step of the way. Ready or Not is my favorite movie of 2019 so far, and quickly skyrocketed to be among my favorite horror movies of all time. A game of hide and seek where being found means death is the backdrop of this thriller. It's rare that horror movies have such strong character work, as it's easy to divide characters into disposable murder victims and psycho killers. But Ready or Not establishes a massive ensemble and gives you a strong idea as to the personalities of everyone present, and all without exceeding a reasonable runtime. Samara Weaving is a wedding dress-clad badass you'll be chewing your fingernails to bits, awaiting the fate of as she dodges hurdles through the eerie Ladomus mansion. This movie had everything I seek in a horror flick, the kind that kept me guessing, shivering, and, if you're like me, laughing at a few instances of really well-timed morbid humor. This one is an easy must-watch. I'm not the biggest fan of isekai anime, which is why I was surprised that I had no reason to be cautious to try Cautious Hero, known to some as the hero is overpowered but overly cautious, which tells the story of a council of gods responsible for picking heroes to save foreign worlds. and how the amorousness of one Restarte gets her far more than she bargained for when the hero she summoned is apprehensive and hair-splitting in his methods to a fault. It's rare that slapstick anime really makes me laugh, and the idea of a celestial council responsible for putting isekai teleportations into action is actually rather brilliant in a fun, sort of meta way. Also, anyone gunning for fall anime's best girl can go home while we have Rista, a super endearing character and walking Rolodex of reaction gifs. It's not every day that an anime lets a really pretty character be so physically malleable for comedic effect. In a market oversaturated with isekai anime, this is an alternate world I don't want to leave anytime soon. I have to admit, I find it a bit funny that it's still kind of a point of contention which food should touch on the dinner plate of the Disney and Marvel umbrella. Meanwhile, in the Warner Brothers neck of the woods, they continue to put their malleable ensembles of characters to great use, this time in the DC meets Looney Tunes line of comics, where the universally known premises of Batman, Bugs Bunny, Wonder Woman, and Marvin the Martian blend in a way you'd never guess would feel so natural and fun. Elmer Fudd takes it upon himself to shoot Bruce Wayne for his playboy proclivities, while Catwoman and Sylvester find themselves in a supernatural struggle where the fate of all cats in the universe are at stake. It's just as strange as it sounds, but with a title like DC meets Looney Tunes, I wouldn't have it any other way. To boot, each paired-off character premise has two stories, one clearly more superhero-inspired and one much more loony cartoony, giving the best of both worlds in a sense. If premises such as Daffy Duck cyberbullying Lex Luthor, an Old West duel between Yosemite Sam and Jonah Hex, or Lobo hunting down the Roadrunner sound like fun to you, I would really encourage you to check these out, Doc. I doubt I'm making waves when I say American Horror Story has been hit and miss, if nothing else, through its entire run. After I didn't even bother to finish Roanoke or Cult, I thought I was done with the show until Apocalypse won back a lot of good faith, and 1984 rolled out and secured a place among my favorite seasons of the series. The show manages to fully embrace the synthwave, leopard print-clad spirit of the 80s, and finally tackle the slasher genre, but does so by creating a setting where anyone can be a killer and no one is safe, and betrayal and blood is abound, in a long night that spans several episodes, yet never skips a beat. Montana Duke is my favorite character the series has introduced in years. Her name is Billy Lord because she's the lord of my mind at most times, and anything that can bust out some poetic 80s beats gets a thumbs up from me. If you're disenchanted with American Horror Story like I was after some pretty recent flubs, I think this one might slash back some good faith. I don't have time to set it to music here and now, but I felt the most recent additions to the Tekken series, as far as new characters have gone, have lost a bit of the spirit I originally loved in those older games. But any degree of hope I had in the contrary has been validated in no small degree by the newly unveiled Leroy Smith. And in this aging Wing Chun fighter from the streets of the big city, I see a return to the cultural influence of martial arts and emphasis on training and sport that made me fall in love with the Tekken universe. As of recording this video, Leroy isn't even playable yet, but seeing the wide celebration of his breathtaking design and style, to the point that celebrities like T-Pain have cosplayed him, I think that's beyond warranting a mention in my fall highlight. I truly hope that Jim Henson can see, wherever he is, that his at the time underappreciated work of passion and genius, The Dark Crystal, is now one of the best dramas on Netflix. The Henson Creature Shop created from string, felt, and imagination what has become some of my favorite folklore creatures in any magical world, especially the Skeksis. On top of these insanely intricate and pleasing designs, we have within the Council of Skeksis alone an incredible political thriller set in a fantasy kingdom lore that would give Game of Thrones pause at its best. All of this is packed with an incredible voice cast, Mark Hamill's put upon an inquisitive Skektek, and Andy Samberg as the hysterical heretic among the standouts in my eyes. This feels like reading an old-timey novel brought to life, and I love the feeling that these puppets give, that feel like a lost art form finally brought to a whole new audience on Netflix through Dark Crystal: The Age of Resistance. The best way I can describe how impressed I was by Netflix's Green Eggs and Ham would be that watching it episode by episode felt like watching 13 feature-budget animated short films. I feel that never before has the spirit and art of Dr. Seuss been so well retained by an adaptation, with great care and creativity in every notion of the directing, accompanied by a color scheme and soundtrack that gives me a distinctly comfortable warmth while watching, the same one you'd get while eating your favorite breakfast with loved ones. I was a little concerned initially by the whole everybody is somebody cast list, but I think everybody did a really great job. I especially love the emotional range that Michael Douglas brings to Guy Am I. I know the idea of an extended story based on the cast of Green Eggs and Ham sounds like an absurd idea, but I would encourage any skeptics to have an open mind. Try it, and you may. Try it and you may, I say. Hell hath no fury like two high school girls on a warpath for their boyfriends. And boy, does River City Girls capture that same blaze and resolve. The game feels like a wish fulfillment at times, giving you the chance to thrash bosses that maybe you knew in high school, but underneath the mask of an unforgettable beat-em-up challenger. From the towering hall monitor Misuzu to the catty and portentous queen bees, Hasebe and Mami. The makers of this game show their stripes as fans of the River City franchise. With every splash of paint, they went to the extra measure of adding, as River City feels more alive than ever, filled with bombastic characters, unique shops in each corner of town, and the ability to shoot a text to the bullies you've beaten up when you need a hand. This personality-dripping sprite art and tongue-in-cheek dialogue makes this game feel like the pizza place you hit on Friday afternoons after class back in high school, where you talk smack, get hit, and let all the stresses go in a sea of interesting faces in and out of the halls. I hope this isn't the last we see of these depictions of the River City universe. I'm a well-known lunatic, and as a result, I have a goal of experiencing at least some of every property that can be found within the pages of Weekly Shonen Jump, and my latest venture of this regard was handed to me on a silver platter by the new redub of Saint Seiya. Seiya is definitely on the hokier end of shonen battle series, especially considering its peers like Fist of the North Star and Dragon Ball, but there's a very unique charm to it I can't deny. You don't always see battle anime where locations like Athens are a point of contention, and where the fighters' powers are inspired by mythological Greek interpretations of constellations. It's neat in concept, and something about the Sentai-esque armor designs and old-school neon lighting is so hard to take my eye off of. It is dripping with that 80s anime charm. If you're more accustomed to the new generation of shonen series, I'd be lying to say it's as intense as Demon Slayer or as cerebral as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. But if you're interested in the roots and forefathers of this demographic that spawned your favorite anime, this is a really fun watch. I hope you all enjoyed my little fall look back and that you had a fall with as many little pleasures as I did, despite any ups or downs. I'll probably be saving my next chunk of highlights for a New Year 2020 as opposed to spring or winter, because those get to be a bit redundant. But in the meantime, I have some videos I'm really excited for coming out soon. Thanks for watching.